mandatory vasectomies for baby boys. Yeah, I said it.
No, we are not giving mandatory vasectomies to baby boys. Is anyone else horrified by this misrepresentation of feminism? Because I am. This is what is continuing to be misunderstood about feminism and patriarchy. The problem isn't inherently being male, it is how men and boys are socialized. Doing something like this would not get to the root of the problem at all. Because we seem to forget that men are objectified by the patriarchal system too. The patriarchy really only fully benefits the top 1% of rich, usually white, men in the white male system. And yes, it is true that the entitlement that comes from the system often trickles down to the common man. But like I've said in previous videos, the way that the patriarchy benefits the common man is much less than what the patriarchy steals from them. Unfortunately, most men are too blind to see this. And unfortunately, under patriarchy, everyone is socialized and programmed with misogyny, and so the blame often falls on women instead of the real enemy, which is the top 1%. It is true that men have caused so much terror to this world, and I understand why people would want to think of something like this for a solution, but it is not the root of the problem. Because the objectification of men under patriarchy is just as heartbreaking as women if you truly understand it. One of the pieces of media that really helped me understand this is the anime Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I don't think I've ever cried so hard at the end of a piece of media, because it really helped me understand and gave me an awakening to the tragedy of being a man in the late capitalistic, narcissistic, hierarchical, patriarchal system. Because in that series, you see how even the best-meaning men are completely destroyed by the system. How the options set before them really don't feel like a choice at all. Because they either have to A, join the system and climb the ladder of this capitalistic system by losing their soul, or B, go against the system, which makes it a very, very hard life for them, and potentially risking those dependent on them. Under this system, men are objectified for their ability to provide, not by women, although they love to think so, but by the system that benefits from their exploitation. Because the system says, bend the knee and join our capitalistic system, become a toxic masculine, lose your soul, or not only will you die, but all those who are dependent on you will also. So even for the men who want to embrace their provider role, they have to lose their soul to do it. And I can understand to some extent why men do not want to be objectified for being a provider. And the system blame shifts this onto women and calls women who need providers gold diggers, when in reality this is a completely reasonable and natural need for women. But that natural need is exploited by the system and also gets away with doing that exploitation and putting the blame on women. So instead of men resenting the system that exploits this natural need, they blame women. So no, dehumanizing little babies and marring their bodies is not the answer. It may prevent unwanted pregnancies, but it's not going to prevent things like rape and men feeling untitled under the system. This isn't to say that policies have no place in enforcing equality, but in my opinion, that is not equality. That is persecuting men the same way that women have been persecuted, and it's just not the answer. The answer is to bring awareness. It's to discuss these underlying core issues, these principles, the illusion and the propaganda that has been fed to us. The answer is to deconstruct. And the answer is spiritual awakening. And sometimes that is only possible by men in the system who embrace the system to hit rock bottom. But our role in making that happen is to simply withdraw our feminine energy and withdraw access to ourselves as feminine, because men do need women to survive. Women are literally offer a reason for living for men. The answer is not domination over them, it's removal of ourselves. And once men no longer have access to the feminine, they're going to be forced to deconstruct themselves and recognize that the lie that was sold to them, that they could be one of the top men, the top 1% themselves, if they only climb the ladder, sell their soul enough, and work hard enough, really is just an illusion. I am planning on going into this into more detail in future videos. We're going to pull out the charts and we're going to do a deep dive.